Hi, my name is Kayla Brenneman. I'm a realtor here at Bond Life Real Estate, and today we have some special guests here with us at the office.
Hi, my name is Derek LeBon, and I own Bond Life Real Estate, where we're sitting right now at 302 Glenary Street in Laguna Beach, California. And we have two really special guests today. I'm super excited to introduce both of them. We'll start with Assistant City Manager Jeremy Freeman, who is actually one of my close buddies, and we graduated pretty similar years at Laguna Beach High School, so we have a lot of history here. And then our new friend, Mark Orgill, who is the city mayor of Laguna Beach and is super involved with absolutely everything that's going on currently here in town. And that includes the Promenade, right directly behind where we're sitting in our office. Obviously, the city has fully approved and has gone underway in regards to completely renovating and restructuring what our main focal point of downtown Laguna Beach is. And that's going to be the Promenade that should be open here in the next 2 months, or I'll let you answer
a couple
that.
months.
Couple months we're looking at. And I mean, we just kind of want to jump right into it with all the changes that are going on, but thank you both for being here with us today. And I guess I'll start with a quick question with Mark. Kind of what was the initial stages of this process? I know you were involved to a certain extent with the majority of it. You have a development background, but kind of give us an idea of what it looked like when you approached business owners, the city, and everybody when it came to starting this
Sure,
project.
I'll have Jeremy fill in some of the blanks. I don't, it's been a couple of years now since we actually started the entitlement process and the community outreach. And by the way, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
So when I got on council, we started pretty quickly working on the Promenade and kind of getting it reorganized. It all started prior to my being on council when the COVID, they shut down the street and to kind of help out the restaurants and the retailers. So then we decided that to study whether it should be permanent or not. There was a lot of interest in the community for it to be permanent. So we we assembled several groups, community groups. We had the retailers, we had we had architect group, we had a community group. We had to at least had 6 different groups, community groups, and we met with each group several times just to get we kept the groups relatively small just so we can make sure we heard all the voices. And at the same time, we were working with SWA. They're a design group here in town. And we got all the input from the residents and the different ad hoc groups, pulled that information in, developed the plan, took it to Planning Commission and the City Council. And then from there, we went to Coastal. It did get appealed to Coastal. We went to Coastal. And Coastal, actually, it was a very interesting meeting. They're a tough bunch, right?
Yeah.
And they were actually quite impressed. And we did work with Coastal, and we contacted them early on in the process just to make sure that, we were, working collaboratively and all on the same page, right? And when we did get to Coastal, I went to the meeting up here. I can't remember the city that was in, Calabasas, I believe. And they were very impressed. We got all the coastal commissioners voted in favor of it. Coastal staff spoke very highly of it. We have a great trolley program in town, right, to move people around. We have some interesting parking strategies with some remote parking, and staff does such a great job with always kind of massaging our parking options and how to where to put people, right. So they came back with glowing, comments from Coastal. We got passed, and here we are today. We hired. Now it's unusual as well, the effort that we've gone to. And Jeremy can pipe in a little bit because I won't get it all completely accurate. But we have a construction manager. We of course have the contractor. We still have SWAs heavily involved. And who else? Who else is part of the team, Jeremy?
We have our city engineer, assistant city engineers.
Right.
Just a number.
And the project manager, the company that's managing the project, actually has a person on staff that the retailers and tenants, the restaurant tenants, can reach out to and communicate with. Jeremy's also put together a very comprehensive website so people can track the progress, and we use it as a mean which to communicate. And it does have all the history of the project, all of the various phases and documentation that we went through. Right. So we've really gone, above and beyond, to really communicate with the community and make sure that information is available and just make sure that we're as transparent as possible.
Right. Do you think this would all be possible if COVID didn't strike and the temporary parklets came about? Because I feel like that ended up being a turning point for some sort of change here.
Laguna, we move slow.
Yeah, oh, yeah, we know.
And I've been in town for over 40 years, and I was talking to a gentleman just the other day, and a couple weeks ago, and he reminded me, he said, you know, Mark, we talked about this in the 80s, you know, and he excuse me, he's involved with a local, let's call it environmental group, and he said back then they actually were lobbying for it because,
really?
you know, it's a social place, it's a place for people to gather. Now, there are some folks that, you know, were opposed to it, and they thought that it was pro-tourism. I look at it differently. I spend a lot of time down here. I see people that I wouldn't normally see. You know, I'd go 5, 10 years without even seeing them.
Sure.
Now I get to see them constantly.
Yeah.
I mean, I just, you know, the number of people that it's brought down into the core downtown,
Yeah.
those of us who live here, are there tourists? Of course there are.
Yeah.
You know, there are some tourists. But, you know, even being around that energy, you know, the tourist energy, that, you know, it's a powerful energy, and people are having a good time, and they're so impressed with our community and the town that we're so lucky to have inherited and live in, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And so it's nice to see and feel that enthusiasm, you
Yeah,
know,
no doubt.
for people. So I really enjoyed it when it was temporary, and I really, you know, obviously it's going to be great when it's permanent.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to definitely be a beautiful focal point for town, which I think Laguna really was lacking. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess you could argue that it was Forest Avenue, but when it was parking, the 48 parking spots, it was a nightmare. I mean, at least from what I remember driving down, trying to find a parking spot there, it was so challenging. If someone just stopped and waited for someone to load their car and, you know, just back out in order to take that spot, it was such a challenge to be able to, because you'd back up parking all the way through Forest. It would cause more traffic. So, I mean, the parklets in a lot of ways, in my opinion, freed up quite a bit, even though, you know, like you said, the trolleys make up for it, additional parking, getting creative with parking with the city. And I'm sure it's a challenge you're dealing with all the time. Like, what, as far as parking and making up the difference, like what did you guys do, or have you done anything? Can you kind of get into that for me?
That's a great question. Yeah, certainly parking, especially in a coastal community, is quite challenging. It's a big driver of what can and can't be located here. And I'll just leave it at that without getting too specific about it, technical. Don't want to put your audience to sleep. But yeah, what we looked at and our solution there to alleviate or offset the 47 parking spaces that are now converted to outdoor pedestrian plaza is really leveraging public-private partnerships. There are a lot of surface lots around town that were being utilized for parking spaces, just sitting empty on the weekends. So we've explored and entered into a number of contracts. The Surf Heritage Museum that's coming in, formerly the drugstore, we've got some spaces there. We converted the bus depot. We reached out to OCTA. We've got about another 12 spaces or so for the last few years, and that happened during COVID. Yeah, they didn't need the pull through, so we were able to convert. Yeah. So we've kind of just chipped away at it, right, throughout all these different lots to get pretty close to capturing back those 47 spaces.
Awesome. I've also noticed that, to kind of just touch on that, but it's totally not to the point of the video, but the meters are going away, it seems like, in some places, at least over at Heisler, I've noticed. And I love it because whenever my wife and I, with the stroller, are walking down Heisler or on the sidewalks, we'd always have to stop, or kind of like, you know, we're
really
constantly,
utilize it.
or I'd run into the meters and they're going away, and I'm like, yes, here we go. We're finally moving into a new future in regards to parking in Laguna, and it's been pretty cool.
Absolutely, can confirm I've run into a couple of them as well. So yeah, widening the sidewalk, again, just leveraging technology to improve the experience for the residents, for the visitors, anybody to the community. I've also understand that, you know, just squeezing by people. So we're moving to, and have moved to, app-based payments or pay stations. And so keep an eye out for those, and certainly hope that is making things easier for people. And we're continuing to convert where we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then back to the Promenade, I've seen some pushback online. Where is that really coming from, and what would you say the biggest challenges you've had with kind of getting everyone on board with the Promenade?
We do have pushback online, and I certainly understand folks and their concern about losing what we have and the parts of what make Laguna special. And I think that the concern is really born out of that. And, but if you look at historically with Laguna, we do go through these periods of time where we do move forward and there is change that make what we have even better, right? So look at Main Beach, look at Heisler Park, okay, Treasure Island Park. And so it's just hard to really kind of, accept as it's happening. And then afterwards, I think people will be quite pleased. In 5 years from now, I think people will really realize that it's quite an asset and they're happy that we've done it. If you go back, I'm looking over here on the wall of Forest Avenue. I have several pictures of Forest Avenue back in the day, right? I mean, if you go back far enough, it was a dirt street, right? So things do evolve, and the question is, how do we, continue to evolve and, evolve the town to where it really serves the community. And the way it was designed earlier, it was really there to service the automobile. The way I look at it now, it's here to serve people, right? It's a place for people to gather and be together. So we do continue to evolve, and I think that people will get adapted to it, and that's where the concern comes from. Just people that want to keep it
Traditional
frozen in time.
Laguna, yeah.
But we did, I will say, out of everything that I've been involved with since I've been on council, the number of people that supported it outweighed the people that opposed it. Now, of course, they're very usually vocal online.
But it certainly seems like the business owners down here, for the most part, are in favor of it as well. There's very few that I've run into that have pushed back on it.
Yeah, and whenever there's an infrastructure project, surrounding businesses get concerned because of the disruption, right, to day to day. I mean, not long ago, remember, we were doing the sidewalk improvements down Coast Highway, and it had to, go in front of all of the various stores and businesses, and that was disruptive. But that, regardless of what happened here on Promenade, I could, especially now that I've been so intimately involved with the construction of what's happening, these sidewalks were ready for replacement anyway,
no doubt,
right? And they were all buckled and leaning in. The water was draining into the stores when it would rain, so it was time, and so that would have had to take place anyway.
Sure.
Right. So.
I've tripped on those sidewalks.
Yeah, and now we have a new way to, and we're also planning on in the future to start some beautification streetscape improvements in and around the downtown. So what we're going to be able to do is deal with the tree wells in a more effective way to get rid of any tripping hazards, and also create that detail, that construction detail also allows a better, more healthy condition for the trees.
Right. It seems as though there's going to be some performing arts allowed across the street at the Promenade.
Yeah.
Is it slated already? Have you guys discussed exactly what that looks like?
There's actually a meeting next week. We're going to start that discussion. So it's it's been designed to accommodate. There's different areas on the Promenade. I think there's 3 where equipment can be plugged into it for audio and lighting.
Oh, okay.
So that's been designed into the streetscape. And now we're going to talk about the programming. And there's a variety of programming that can take place. You might remember that the film festival did a film there,
right?
I don't know, maybe a year
it was a surf
so ago.
Something like that, right?
Yeah. And so I could imagine the museum programming there. They do the art and nature, right, down here on the beach. So who knows what they can imagine the space. I mean, we do have a cable system that's overhead. Okay. I could see there being art installations up, suspended above the promenade.
Right.
So, and then of course just entertainment. There could be musical, all you name it.
Yeah, it seems like the possibilities are pretty endless for it all, and it's so conducive to this town, right? I mean, we're an art town. That's kind of what our brand identity is at this point. So why not exploit it? Right. And that's exactly what this space will do. Yes. Did you want to ask anything in regards to the trees by chance?
Okay, so I did see people posting pictures of the trees getting cut down. Are those the ones you're referring to where like the roots are coming underneath the sidewalks? It's hard to build anything flat over them.
We've taken great care to work around the trees, and if you see the orange fencing that's there, we have an on-site arborist who's there all the time, and so she has been keeping an eye on the trees. She established a perimeter. What that means is anybody that goes within that orange perimeter had to work by hand. Now, after they moved the concrete and the asphalt and they pulled it back, they did extract, vacuum up some of the soil, and to better examine those roots. We did find that there was a lot of fungus in and around some of the roots. There was actually a tree on the weekend that just was on its own, fell down. It was a huge tree. It went across the street, fell down, hit a piece of heavy equipment, and dinged the roof really bad. So there are some concerns, with the trees. A couple of them had been removed. They're just, if the roots get to the point where they, in order to make it work, you would have to trim a certain percentage of the roots. It is susceptible to falling over, and we can't have that, right?
Right.
So that's still being evaluated. We did send some soil out to the lab to be tested, and there are several other arborist companies that have come in and analyzing just so we can get other opinions. And but the bottom line is, the point I'm trying to make is, we have gone to great lengths to work with these trees. So we'll probably know more this week.
Lab testing is it's really far. I mean, you're going the extra mile, that's for
Yes,
sure.
we are. I mean, it's nobody's ambition to, rip down trees randomly, right? We don't want to. I have an opinion when it comes to our program moving forward, not just on the promenade, but in the within the community. And I love trees. I want the trees, but at the same time, we do have to consider the safety, right? And God forbid somebody gets killed. I couldn't live with myself if that happened. And that's just a reality that we have to live with. So I would like to eventually have the city consider a tree replacement program. So you just kind of go through gingerly and replace here and there, and that way you maintain your canopy.
Right.
And then those trees grow up, and you can just kind of keep on working. The city manager told me about a situation in Newport where there was a young lady who got hit by a tree and she died.
Oh.
And then they had to come in through this whole district area and remove all of the trees at once, and they lost the canopy. So I think that we could be more thoughtful about it and come up with a program to prevent that.
That seems like a reasonable approach to me. I mean, obviously there's pushback with it all, but you can't make everyone happy. That's the challenge that I'm sure you're faced with.
Well, when you're on the dais and you're making a decision, and I don't want to be over exaggerated, but a life or death kind of a situation, and that is in your mind, right?
Sure.
When you're thinking of that, you think pretty seriously about it.
Yeah, I think you have to.
Right.
I mean, in more ways than one. So thank you guys so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks.
That was
Yeah.
awesome.